Thanks for dropping in. This is Rudolph, the wooden reindeer, not to be confused with his red-nosed namesake. Rudolph is about 36 years old, a gift from a family friend who built him. Assembling and decorating Rudolph has been a favorite part of our family's Christmases ever since. Unfortunately, there's only one Rudolph, but many siblings who have scattered around the country. So this year, I'm printing a sleigh full of caribou, so none of my brothers or sisters are left reindeerless. There are a ton of reindeer templates online for woodworkers. In fact, this one very clearly has some shared origin with Rudolph. Although, like DNA over the generations, there's also some minor differences. Since my goal is to recreate this childhood design, I'm going to use Rudolph himself as my guide. The first step is to lay out each puzzle part for a photo. These are all taken from the same height, so I know the relative size of each part is consistent. Next, the images are imported into Fusion 360, where I trace them using the Fit Point spline tool. The notches are too important to freehand, so I skip over that gap. Instead, I add a line indicator showing where the notch should go, how deep it should be, and what direction it should point. Next, I take a square, which represents the actual notch itself, center it on that line, and then give it a precise width. If I find that a notch is too tight or too loose, it's easy to go in and just adjust that width as needed. Next, the shape is extruded and chamfered to make the edges less sharp. This is normally where I'd give you some printing tips, but come on, this model is super easy to print. Assembly is up to you. Does your reindeer have a cute upturned nose or pouty lower lip? Rudolph has a history of being assembled in some pretty creative ways, and now that I have more parts, these reindeer can look very strange indeed. The final step is to decorate your reindeer. A scarf, a hat, a bow, use whatever you want. But since these reindeer were 3D printed, I decided to 3D print their attire as well. This oddly shaped 3D printed piece is actually intended to be a bow. You fold it up, glue it into place, and you end up with a three-dimensional shape that would be a total nightmare to 3D print directly. Even though the model is flat at first, it's still 3D printing if you use a 3D printer. These bows can be a little bit tricky to print. You need a very level bed and a very good first layer. In fact, the majority of the bow is nothing but a first layer. I guess you can consider them a bed leveling test. Alright, time to shape the bow. First, we're going to form and glue the collar. This part bends back behind the bow to create a small ring. Then just twist that into the ring and it will make a tapered collar. If you're satisfied with how that looks, do it again, but this time with glue. The far ends of the bow glue together like this, and then they're glued to the back of the bow knot. Unfortunately, the collar of the bow is too small to fit around the reindeer's head, but that's not a problem for these flexible creatures. The herd is looking pretty good, but I also wanted to print a smaller scale copy. So here is a 75% scale reindeer. Keep in mind that if you scale down a model like this, you're also going to end up scaling down the clearances, making them a lot tighter. If they're too tight, you may even need to use sandpaper to get everything to fit. If you're also going to scale down the bow, make sure you're only scaling the X and Y axes. Since the majority of the model is only one layer thick, making that any thinner can be a problem. I think that's enough reindeer building for this week. If you're one of my siblings, don't you dare spoil the surprise for the others. If you're anyone else, by all means, spread this video around. Until next time, happy printing and thanks for stopping by.